What is up, everybody? We are live with my laptop camera because I was too lazy to bring the good one down and I didn't know we were doing this way. But welcome to You Own the Experience, or YOE Podcast live at SIA Executive Forum. With me, I have the co-host with the most, Mrs. Lauren Jones.
It's International Women's Day, if you guys did not already know, so we're very excited.
Happy International Women's Day.
And man, we're just getting weighted out up here with this whiteness.
That's all right. We look good. We look good.
If you don't know who this is, I don't know where you've been under a rock. This is Mr. Matt Dichter, the Vice President of Sales of Staffing Engine.
And while we all look good today, we also all got the sneakers only memo. Oh, yeah. So all three of us are wearing sneakers. Our feet are comfortable. We feel good. We're feeling good.
Yeah, like you can't, LJ. Let's get you in here more. I'm a little bit too much in. You're a little bit too.
There we go.
There we go.
Now we're all pretty close.
Now we're comfortable. We've known each other for at least a decade or
That's right.
Anyway, guys, we're super excited. Exec Forum has been great. We brought Matt on because we wanted to have a third party give us some information. But first, let's have LJ give us a little bit. We want to give a little background on International Women's Day and what we're doing for the ladies at SIA Exec Forum. What's going on here? We have the book.
Well, we have a couple things going on. So we have two booths that are giving away free copies of Together We Rise. So you can go to the IMS booth, which is 401, or you can go to the Bullhorn booth, which is
right behind us.
204, which is right behind us, and I know that because I look right there.
IMS is right there, to our, like that way.
And so to the right when you walk in, and then sort of to the left when you walk in, you can go pick up a book and a bookmark. So we're doing that in honor of the 1-year anniversary of Together We Rise and the release of our audiobook at the end of this month. So it's Women's History Month as well. So So by popular demand, thanks to everybody in the industry, the audiobook will be out at the end of March. We have the women's function tomorrow on Thursday from 9 to noon, where some of the authors from Together We Rise will be there to talk about the progress, if you want to call it progress, that we're making. We've slid back a little bit, but I love seeing the new entrepreneurs that we have in women from 2020 to now. So there's some hope, and we're just going to keep doing our thing, chicken wing.
Yep. And then obviously you can buy the book online. I was trying to get some links set up on here, but I could not get them live, so I apologize. We'll get links everywhere for you guys. If you are tuning in live, make sure that you tell us where you're from. I see some notes in the chat, so let's go. We're doing all this from one computer. Oh, well, thank you, LinkedIn user. This thing is not working very well today. Anyway, Matt, I tasked you with taking notes.
I took notes. I've got them in front of me on my cell phone. I've got plenty of notes.
So what are some of the highlights so far and then interesting insights that you've seen?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give some of my top takeaways from the show so far. Obviously, what I'm most excited about is all the attention that conversational AI and AI is getting.
Couldn't help himself, guys.
Couldn't help myself. I mean, neither could Barry, because on his opening keynote, he had a haiku about the
ChatGPT wrote if you didn't see it, he wrote
We were also just in a session about pivots and takeaways coming out of COVID, and the Chief Digital Officer, Darren Simons from Kelly Services, was talking about some of the implications about ChatGPT, and it's been interesting for a long time. We've used automation to basically mitigate repetitive tasks, and then we've had recruiters and sellers actually do the human touch points. ChatGPT is a little bit of a disruptor there, and that it can take a lot of data and give a targeted sales message. And so, the question he posed was, is this potentially reducing or replacing some of the work that salespeople and recruiters do? We certainly say, no, we're not here to replace recruiters. We want to help keep them focused on relationship building, but there's some interesting use cases there.
I think that, we say this all the time, right? So automation AI on repetition, people on relationships. And I don't think ChatGPT, first of all, ChatGPT doesn't get it right all the time.
No, I have a funny stat.
But at least it doesn't insult you like Microsoft.
Oh, yeah. Well, sometimes it's nice to be insulted by a robot.
I'm
It
here
can be
for
insulted
it.
by
I
a
signed
human.
up for the beta
No, so
because I just want to see how much it kicks
Yeah,
me around.
so there was a publication that has been, and there's a science fiction publication that takes amateur authors and will publish them if it's a good story, and they had to stop because apparently like some high side hustle YouTube video told them it's a good way to make money because if they publish it they have to pay you, and so they're getting inundated with really terrible AI generated books or like short stories on science fiction, and they're bad. These guys, it's really funny.
The point of all of that is what AI can do is enable.
Yeah.
And help you do more with less and allow you to take those relationship type people and put them in high touch scenarios and let all of the repetition be done by the chat GPTs and the AIs and all
and I know that you've been using it. I wrote a blog post recently and I basically used chat GPT to give me my shell and then I filled it with personal
that's what you should be. I think that's the best use case right now.
I'll give a little sales tip for anyone who might be listening because on the sales side of things, this could also be on the recruiting side. But one of the things that in sales reach out, a lot of folks struggle with is having automated messages at scale that aren't personalized. So one of the things that a lot of popular sales leaders, including my friend Keith Waitman, talk about is how you can take something that someone's interested in and tie it into your solution. Well, ChatGPT can do that, and as a real life use case, we were trying to figure out our messaging going into SIA Exec Forum this week. And I wrote into ChatGPT, please give me 3 commonalities between Miami, South Beach, and conversational AI. And it was talking about, I
don't want to hear about that.
Innovation was an example of how, Miami's at the forefront of fashion and diversity and all that. And in a similar way, conversational AI is at the forefront of innovation and technology. So
I love the correlation.
Well,
we've used it to summarize data. I mean, we had 12 pages worth of input.
Yeah, that was so much input. I can't believe it accepted all that. I'm still I try to use Jasper sometimes, and it won't take.
I love Jasper for sales messaging more over ChatGPT. So
you put the 12 pages in ChatGPT because it'll accept all that content?
Yes.
Okay.
And then so I put it through ChatGPT.
I need access to that for the episodes.
Yes.
When we summarize these transcripts, it would be nice.
Yes. So, I use Otter because Otter does a great job on transcription and it allows you to chapter it out. Anyway, nerding out.
Yeah, sorry. We're being technical here. You're getting a behind the scenes look at how we do the things that we do.
Yeah.
But the whole point is, I think even for the podcast, we'd have to have, a researcher, an admin, or what have you to help us compile all of that data. And now we don't have to.
Yeah, that would be nice. We're going to have to do that eventually. We're going to make courses for you guys.
Yes.
So should I hit another takeaway?
No, we're just going to ignore you for the rest of it. Yes, please go.
Yes.
Okay, let's do another one. So we talked about AI. I think another big one is the shift, the ongoing shift to platform-based work. And one of the more interesting stats I heard, so this is going to be more healthcare flavored, but I went to a session yesterday talking about the healthcare platforms, and there's a lot of them out there, both off-the-shelf vendors like Nomad, and then people like SIA who have built their own. And I was sitting next to our friend April Hansen, and Ryan Kovacs was up on stage talking, and he threw a crazy stat out that in the past the average recruiter was able to average 30 to 40, maybe 50 traveler nurses on assignment.
Yep.
And SIA's got a recruiter. They have a recruiter who's got 320 nurses on assignment this month.
Because they can
automate so much of it. And one of the reasons that SIA has been so impressive, I mean, they're $12 billion and they're highlighted in all of Barry's keynotes now. But one of the reasons that they've been so successful is having that really strong platform technology, and then also having really responsive recruiters that are able to come in and give the personalized touch on top of that platform experience.
Yeah,
I like that.
agree. I attended the professional services session with Lisa Brzonek which was amazing, by the way. But they got into the topic of DE&I, how our team's focusing on this with unsurety as we come into 2023. So I thought that was an amazing session. Gave really tactical advice to firms on how they can continue to focus on DE&I without draining budgets.
Yeah. And then you guys can hear the background, the guys playing the bells for everyone to go to the next
it's the most
session.
annoying thing
It's
ever.
really, I really want a xylophone and like a professional musician next time.
So another good session I went to today was focused on lessons from the pandemic. And it seems like it's been so long ago, but there's still plenty of like fresh takes that have come out of that.
Really?
Like the Fed not knowing what to do.
Well, I think that what we're some of the stuff that we're seeing now. So there was a 28% increase in contingent-based work, and a lot of that is because of uncertainty, not just from the pandemic, but because of the economy too. People are wanting more of that contract, short-term work that gives them flexibility. And one of the things that you keep hearing from staffing agencies is all about flexibility. So making sure that you can have the remote work option, because a lot of people want to work remote, and having that work flexibility in addition to like being able to work at different shifts at different places is becoming more and more important.
I like it. I do like this idea that you don't have to work for one employer. You can have multiple things you're doing. You do like 8 businesses. So I have the podcast and this, and I do a little bit of consulting. Matt, you just sell a lot of AI software and chatbots.
I want them to open up that discussion though. So this is what I want to see more of, because I agree. I think this, and I think what Gen Z and even millennials have done is help large employers, small employers see that this generation understands that one job may not support the family.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so how do we enable them to be in more control of their income, their retirement, their benefits, all of these types of things? And if we're really going to start talking or pontificating, being completely outside of the box, we have to understand that traditional employer-employee, that kind of makeup
thing called inflation, and
may not work.
all of a sudden, somehow in the 50s, one family member could work, and you could have a nice house in the suburbs and put your kids through school. That's just not happening anymore.
No.
That's not a reality. So
it's not a reality.
if you don't want to make that reality happen, if you want to be where your parents were, right? I think millennials have 7% of the wealth, and when the generation before, at our age group, Matt and I's age group, your kind of
I'm a Gen Xer.
they were at 22% of the national wealth in the U.S. So there's this huge issue, right? Of millennials we have 7. Mark Zuckerberg probably has most of it, to be honest with you, and then we get with the rest over. But we're 15 percentage points down from where one generation ago they were at our age.
Yeah.
So that's a huge issue. So to the point, it's we need multiple jobs to do the thing that we need to do.
To have everything that baby boomers had and Gen Xers had and all of that. And so I absolutely think that we have to just erase this traditional employer-employee mindset. And then that gives us this beautiful clean slate to be able to innovate.
Yeah, and I think it was nice that they were talking about it. So it's come up multiple times, right?
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, what else you got?
And you mentioned inflation, and I guess some good news, that came out of yesterday's session was that even despite all the economic uncertainty, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering what that means for our industry. And there is general optimism that inflation isn't necessarily a bad thing for staffing. There's still, 6.3 million more jobs and workers out there, so there's tons of opportunities for work. And I think Barry said that SIA is forecasting 2% industry growth, which is, not a huge growth, but it's better than not growth. So,
yes.
We'll definitely, there's tons of opportunity out there to make money. A couple of quick leadership, quick hitters that I took. One, there was in the keynote this morning, there was a note around just surrounding yourself with other growth-minded leaders if you want to, bring success into your company. I think that's one of the great things about shows like this is there's so many great leaders to network with, and you get so many good takeaways from working with like-minded individuals.
I thought it was interesting. A lot of them were I would have started working with a business coach earlier. It was some really interesting feedback.
There's a general across the board in a couple sessions that, when people ask about like regrets they've had, it's always that they didn't do something sooner. There was like in the COVID breakout.
Everyone wanted to start a travel nursing firm sooner.
One of the folks
Right.
one of the folks
And win the lottery.
One of the folks on the panel was just talking about how their only regret from a digital transformation standpoint was that they didn't start earlier. And so it's something that we see with folks that we work with all the time, that there's hesitancy or delays in their decision making, and then you hear all these people say that they wish they'd implemented something sooner. And so it's ultimately up to salespeople to help them understand like what they're missing out on by not acting sooner.
So I know we're salespeople, all of us. Everyone's a salesperson, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it's not in the world that we live in. It's not the salesperson's job to educate the consumer. That's changed. That was the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Starting with the internet era, like, you educate yourself. So if you obviously you need a coach, you need a guide usually, but we're in the self-education.
You need a rescue ranger.
You need a rescue. We're in the self-education age. So like, as much as you could rely on a salesperson, like if you don't know, you don't know. I get that.
There's self-education to the extent where the salesperson should help them. If they don't know how much a challenge is costing them, help them understand the costs associated with that.
Of course.
The cost of inaction, especially in like.
Yeah, that should be on your website too.
In economic climate like this, understanding the cost of inaction is incredibly important for decision makers.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Helping a customer actually monetize the unknown.
Wow.
I mean, that's a huge opportunity.
Money Talks and Mr. Ed. Is that little Wayne?
On the sales front, Seth Madison during his keynote yesterday talked about. She's like me.
Lauren's got the shakes
I got
going
the
on
Jimmy
over
one
here.
too.
So I'm just trying to be calm.
He put up a slide that showed the things that matter most to nurses, and the takeaway from that was that you need to understand the person that you're marketing or selling to and understand what their underlying motives are and what drives them, and have really specific messaging from a sales standpoint into what matters to them. Because if you go in talking about one thing, it's not something that they care about, you're going to miss the mark completely.
Agreed.
And so it's understanding your who you're targeting, what their underlying motives are,
what their values are,
what their values are is really important.
Oh my God, did you?
Their mission, vision, values.
Oh yeah, so it was so fascinating in the keynote this morning. The one of the things that they said was like, you don't want a one-size-fits-all for your business. You have to do things based on your mission, vision, and values. And every time someone says something about mission, vision, values, I go back to that workshop we taught when people were like, just tell us what to buy. And we were like, we can't because we don't know your mission, vision, or values.
Right.
But these 100 million plus firms, like the leaders of these firms, some of the leaders, were like, hey, we make decisions based on our mission, vision, values, and then we decide what tech to buy, what coach to work with, how to drive our business. So pay attention to those.
Pay attention. Mission, vision, values, they're everything.
And speaking of, the last thing I'll comment on, Jess Calzaretta from Insight Global was talking about something that it's interesting. We hear a lot about meeting candidates where they are. Her comment was meeting employees where they are. And then when she said that, she was referring to what they've done to help provide mental health counseling support, and also giving that work-life flexibility and offering remote work because they're putting their employees first. And that's an incredible.
Lauren, who's your first customer as a business owner? Who is your first customer?
Leslie Vickery.
Who's your first? No, you're the best. When you are the business owner, who is your first customer?
When I am the business owner, who is my first customer?
You say this all the time on the show.
We do?
Your internal employees.
Oh, yeah. My team. I would
like to point out that I caught Lauren in the middle of looking away. So I'm sorry, Lauren. But your first customer is your internal employees. If you serve them well.
If you serve them well, they will serve your customers well. But I wanted to. I'm going to get in the weeds on that one just a little bit because I've given it a ton of thought as of late.
Okay. Well, you have your own employees now.
I have my own employees now, so I know the difference. And if I'm not taking care of myself, I don't take care of them really well.
But that's kind of on the same vein. I like that.
So your first customer is yourself then.
But your first.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, you got to take care of.
I will update it. We're gonna update it.
We're
You
gonna
got
update
yourself,
it. You got to take
your
care
internal
of you.
employees,
Your internal employees.
and then your candidates and
Because
customers.
I'm the best version of me when I'm taking care of myself, and then I give the most to my people. And
You don't want to see you don't want to see angry or hangry Lauren. over
I've
We do
seen
not.
Angry LJ. It's not good.
yeah, it's not a good look.
the missus was hangry the other day, and I messed up ordering her food, and we were driving home, and I was just in silence
Oh
in
my
the
God.
car, like in the
She's
corner.
adorable, by the way.
I was like cowering in the corner of this car.
She's adorable. I could have spent all night talking to her.
Yes. Well, you'll be able to do that tonight.
Yeah,
if you're
okay.
staying. All right, guys. Sorry for the video quality. Next time I'll bring my camera. We're in Miami. I could have just brought it down with me. Matt, thank you so much for taking
You got
notes.
it. Thanks for having me
Appreciate
again.
you.
Lauren, thank you for not
Thank you, everybody.
putting me in the corner. And guys, thanks for tuning in. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Let us know any feedback, questions you have. If you want to see more of Matt or anybody else, or if you want to wave hello to anyone who walks by at some point, that would be amazing. And if you can play the xylophone and you would like to work at a conference one day with us,
You can come on the podcast.
let us know.
We'll
All
have
right.
a xylophonist.
Bye, guys.
Adios.